The sheep and the wolf understand the word liberty differently. This difference dominates human society. Abraham Lincoln, 16th U.S. President. Hey guys! So the Chinese government sees democracy and human rights as the greatest threat to itself. The fear of losing their monopoly of power in political liberalization, they set up a super modern total government electronic monitoring network in the country that refines the system of social ratings and internet censorship. The party creates an electronic system of controlling the masses of an unprecedented scale that is simply terrifying. So let's look at everything they're doing. So the government's efforts have been focused for a long time on making sure their internal audience receives no external criticism for the party or government. Now, the government is taking the approach more often of neutralizing the sources of criticism themselves. It doesn't matter if the source is a foreign government, the media, universities, or domestic protests, physical and digital alike. In China, more than anywhere else, repression is done at an extremely high technological level. In the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, an unprecedented evil system to completely electronically monitor the 25 million minorities is in place. In 1949, Xinjiang was annexed by the PRC. The Chinese Communist Party had wanted to watch for the smallest signs of dissidence for a long time, and now with new resources and technology, it's becoming a reality that's hard to believe. Everything began with a suggestion to not allow a repeat of violent incidents that was supposedly done several years ago by separatists, but then quickly outgrew an irrational frame of safety. 1 million government workers and party members were mobilized as uncalled guests who should regularly visit certain families and sometimes stay the night. They are charged with the responsibility of detecting problems and reporting where to follow if people from more than 47 nationalities that live in this region contact relatives abroad or that don't display sufficient, meaning absolute, loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. This type of work is just the tip of the iceberg and reminds me of analog technology when compared to digital ones. The Chinese government quickly transitioned to digital technology. They hung cameras all over Xinjiang and connected them to a facial recognition system, developed mobile apps integrated with results from the guests' observations and data from electronic control points, and organized the processing of this mass of information. On the basis of the obtained electronic dossier, a decision on the relative worthiness of re-education is made. Over the last 10 years, the world hasn't seen a system of camps as big as the one in Xinjiang, where no less than 1 million Muslim Turkic men were sent for an unspecified amount of time for political re-education. Simultaneously, a system of orphanages and boarding schools was made for these orphans who also needed ideological re-education. However, the same thing often happens in normal Xinjiang schools. It seems the goal is to completely remove these minorities' religious and ethnic identities and independent political positions. To leave the camp, you must convince the curators that you speak Chinese and think like a proper Chinese person, meaning unlimited loyalty to Chairman Xi and the Chinese Communist Party. We are actually seeing an ambitious attempt by a totalitarian regime to assimilate minorities and create loyalty by brainwashing. In Geneva, Guy McDougall, a member of the UN Committee for Eliminating Racial Discrimination, directly called Xinjiang a territory that resembles one giant concentration camp, and that 1 million people are held in transformation centers. Similar methods of total monitoring and the formation of daily stations are being implemented in the entire massive country. First and foremost, it's worth noting the social credit that the government can use to calculate forming the necessary behavior for the citizens. Social credit is created as a self-regulating system of light totalitarianism, so the people can use manipulative, scary tools to direct themselves on the correct path. This all began because China didn't have a united scoring system until 2015, when Ant Financial, a filial of Alibaba Group, thought of its Zima credit and provided access to it to China's national bank. And it wasn't offered voluntarily. It was very firmly requested. All payments in China are done through the national Alipay payment system. It stores everything including personal data of various kinds and information about all parts of a person's life, what kind of car they buy, what kind of education they have, and much, much more. Nothing can escape the big Chinese eye. The social credit system is on a government level and, of course, isn't limited to just payments. Everything is significantly more serious. Law obedience, honesty, and even consumer behavior are various parts of a person's life monitored by the Chinese social rating system. In China, since January 1, 2021, there is a new civil codex officially called the Social Credit System. Additionally, the PRC is the unrivaled leader in facial recognition technology. By 2020, 626 million cameras with facial recognition technology were spread throughout China, and by the end of 2022, according to IHS Markit, there will be 2.76 billion cameras, almost 2 cameras per person. Big Brother will follow the Chinese everywhere and not just monitor them, but calculate their rating depending on their behavior. The idea of the Chinese specialists is to carefully study foreign experience in this field, and it ends with a suggestion to split a specific sum of points among the people in a city. This initial sum, guaranteed to all the residents, has the same starting conditions and can either grow or shrink depending on if the owner of the purse does something good or harmful. There's a similar system for companies where they are checked for ecological and legal norms. The evaluation also takes into account the conditions and labor safety for the business and their financial accountability. Now, every citizen has a starting rating of 1,000 points. The United Information System analyzes each using 160,000 parameters from 142 institutions. If the rating goes over 1,050 points, you are a model citizen and are marked with an AAA index. 1,000 points is an A+ rating, and 900 is a B. Points can be earned by becoming a blood donor, participating in charity projects, or by writing an ode to the Communist Party. The general hysteria is reinforced by the fact that points can go down as well. Points are removed for things like jaywalking or not paying a fine, and they are reported for so-called obedience. The total loyalty rating determines access to desired social bonuses, like the opportunity to live in an attractive city and send your children to a privileged school, or to buy a plane ticket or high-speed train ticket. High points let you rent a hotel room without a deposit, get discounts on utilities, and have lower interest in the bank. If your rating drops lower than 849, you are a suspicious Category C holder who might be fired from your government or private work. If you have 599 points or lower, you're in Group D, which is like having a black spot since you won't be hired for anything. People with a D rating can't get a normal job, get loans, buy tickets for transport, and maybe even rent a bicycle. For comparison, a person with an A+ rating can rent a bicycle for free and can even ride it for 30 minutes without paying anything. A person with a C rating has to leave 200 won to rent a bicycle. People are scared to even talk to Category D people because someone might tell the government you spoke to someone on the blacklist and your rating could be lowered. A low rating also leads to public damning and humiliation, including divulging the names of the offenders, including the personal information of the acquaintances, coworkers, and relatives. For now, political criteria aren't included in the rating, but they wouldn't be hard to add. How much time do you think the Chinese government needs to fully destroy the last spot of democracy in neighboring Hong Kong? This is a rhetorical question, of course. Propaganda is on the highest level in China. Chinese government information agencies would want the world to think they are independent and trustworthy. However, they aren't. Many of these media organizations spread Chinese Communist Party propaganda throughout the world, and their employees productively work for the Chinese Communist Party. The party's control over the government media is just a part of General Secretary Xi Jinping's efforts to control the Chinese population and the influence of media around the world. From banning certain words to strict censorship online and through Chinese technology companies abroad, Xi has reinforced the control the party has over what people can say and learn about China. As far as independent media goes, it's basically non-existent. The government arrested more journalists last year than any other country in the world. And there's the internet. According to the 2019 rating for internet freedom, the worst offenders for the freedom to use the internet continue to be the Chinese government. The repressive censor is affecting the lives of people outside China more and more. For several years in a row, the independent organization Freedom House that monitors and protects freedoms and democracy all over the world called China the country with the most limited, repressive, and least free internet in the world. They say in the report, the level of internet freedom in China has fallen to the lowest level on the basis of the rules of freedom online. Additionally, the censure and monitoring have reached an unprecedented level with how the government is increasing control over information. The Chinese government implemented an online censure to suppress criticism and provide population control. In a report from 2018 by the State Department, they said that Beijing has tens of thousands of workers responsible for monitoring electronic communications and online content. Private internet companies also follow the government's orders and hire thousands of workers to monitor user activity. But the report from the Centre of Information Stability, a British non-government organization, studies the risks associated with the activities of the enemies of democracy in the information field and consults politicians, public workers, and journalists. According to their research, there is a branching network with over 350,000 false accounts on social media that conduct propaganda for the values of Communist China and to discredit its enemies. According to the report, the goal of this network is to increase the influence and image of China abroad and discredit the West and Western values. One of their methods is caricatures like for the Chinese magnate Guo Wenguo, an open critic of Communist China who had to flee the country. In several accounts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, the profile pictures seem to be generated by a program using artificial intelligence. Other accounts seem to be hacked and used to belong to other people in other languages. Well, that's all for today. Be sure to leave a like and comment. Let me know which is the creepiest part of this video while we still can comment on things like this. And we'll see you again next time.